Let's start there with what Mr. Salvini just had to say. What about the situation in France? Why couldn't these ships go to Marseille, for example?
Well, first and foremost, the International Maritime Organization has set specific rules. If you're in a search and rescue area, which is Italy's, then it's up to Italy to have this boat being disembarked on Italy's shores. So France wouldn't be able to take any boat unless decided by the coordination center, in this case, the Roma center. So if Rome decides to just have this boat being disembarked in France because it's safer and it's the nearest port of safety, France might be able to say yes. But it's more complicated than just shifting the blame onto someone else.
Now, Matteo Salvini was just in Libya where he made a surprise trip. When he was there, he talked about establishing processing centers, if you like, in unnamed African countries that would try and stem the flow of people before they even tried to come over from Africa to Europe. Do you think that that's a good idea?
Well, it's an old trick. It was already promoted in 2003 by Tony Blair at the time, and it was absolutely denounced as being in breach of international human rights law. So it was not implemented by the European Union at the time, and there's no reason why it should be implemented today, because the situation is exactly the same as some years ago. People are fleeing persecution, they're fleeing conditions, and they have the right to see their situation be examined. Now, to distort the humanitarian narrative and make people believe that this is precisely because we have no center offshore that people embark on board unsafe journeys is wrong. It's not true. The very reason why people have these journeys to take on board in very dangerous, perilous ways because they have no alternative. So the EU has had since 2001 a directive that has never been enacted that allows people, massive flows of people fleeing persecution, to access the EU safely. This has never been enacted. There's been no humanitarian visas. There is no resettlement scheme allowing these people to come safely to the European Union. So Salvini's statement is very akin to those by either other EU leaders, which means it's a distortion of what's going on right now, making us believe that this is because we don't outsource asylum processes. It's a nonsense.
The core issue still, though, for many people in Europe is the fact that these people are coming in. The question being, which countries should take in the migrants? How should they be dispatched, even if they're landing first in Italy or Greece, for example? Mm-hmm. The EU summit's kicking off later this week on Thursday. Do you think the EU is capable of coming up with some sort of solution to just that question?
Well, we would very much hope for instance, an EU resettlement mechanism or an EU search and rescue mechanism. So far, the hot potato of migrants and refugees, because this is what it is at the moment, sadly speaking. We're not talking of people, we're not talking of men, women and children, we're speaking of a burden in inverted commas, and it's very sad. So it's unlikely that anything will come up. In respect of solidarity, it would be very good that at least provisions whereby people can access other EU countries are implemented, because this is exactly why you have diversion strategies from Malta, Italy, Greece alike. There's really a need to have real solidarity at the moment. Sadly speaking, the scenery at the moment is not rosy at all.
Indeed, especially given the rise of populism that we're seeing now across Europe. So given that current context, what's the answer? What would be the ideal solution?
Maybe to make the point to EU citizens that we do have the means, that we even have some legal means at hand existing. We don't need to come up with new solutions. Solutions are there. They've been known for many years. What's needed at the moment is leadership politically, and this is crucially lacking. So we need our leaders to take this risk politically to show that we can do otherwise, because we have the means, we have the financial means, we have the human resources to do so. The hotspot approach has proved a complete failure. The hotspot approach outside of the European Union would be a further breach of the human rights of the people we're talking about. We do have the means, though, because we're able to spend so much money on border guards. We spend so much money on having police at our borders stopping people. This money can also be used somehow to be better in receiving the people and think maybe of a way to better understand the social struggles at stake within the European Union at the moment.
All right, Marie, thank you so much for coming in to speak to
Cheers.
us. Marie Martin, the Migration and Asylum Program Officer for the NGO EUROMED Rights. Thank you so much.